Suppliers Program. To our knowledge, I gave away my copy of the timeline, but the office that was supposed to be enforcing this didn't actually send any letters, to the brands complaining. And this is not meant to be overly critical, but I think that really speaks to the importance of activists on the ground pressing for these things. And if you guys take away, anything from this conference, I hope you take away a lot of valuable knowledge about how these things work. But I think ultimately it comes down to keeping pressure on public figures, on companies, just like you're doing with fair trade, and really making it something that keeps people accountable to their image. So Student Labor Action Project, we started in November of last year. We went with about 20 students, formed a delegation asking that the University of Washington accept the Designated Suppliers Program. Now, the Designated Suppliers Program is designed to kind of consolidate UW factories and where we source our things from. Have you guys already heard about this from Scott Nova? No. Okay, so yes, some of you. So the idea is just to if UW's sharing a factory where there's 5% is UW baseball hats and the rest is going to Walmart, and we're saying, we want to enforce that the workers here are getting, they're not being exploited with sexual harassment, they're getting water breaks, bathroom breaks, their basic human rights are respected, they're getting a fair wage so they can feed their families, right? If we're demanding that in a factory, but Walmart's got the other, 95%, that's not going to be as effective. So the Designated Suppliers Program, the idea is that you're consolidating your orders into factories that are proven to respect workers' rights. This gives us sort of a floor on, the race to the bottom, right? It's making it so that the UW, through its agreement, with brands, it's not going to sell you that Husky logo that's worth so much, by the time games roll around, right? If you're not going to agree to source from these specific factories. So it was our way of trying to give some accountability to that Workers' Rights Consortium that the UW had already been obligated to. And I just want to, point out that well, I really feel that it's important for us to be engaged democratically, writing to people in charge, getting media out about these issues, because you'll notice that, during that 7-year period, not much took place. And even when students requested that the UW sign on to the Designated Suppliers Program, which was essentially just a way of making the Workers' Rights Consortium enforced, right? It wasn't anything radical. It took us over half a year to actually get the Licensing Advisory Committee to meet. And that, I believe, would not have happened had it not been for the persistent protests of students on campus. We were going, actually, I don't have my timeline in front of me, but, we were asking that this happen. We were sending emails, it wasn't forming, and I understand that these things take time. But when it comes down to it, how much time can workers whose factories are being shut down afford? In the case of BJ&B factory, you guys can see the mock funeral that was about that. That was that BJ&B factory, a production facility that was being monitored by the Workers' Rights Consortium. Even though they had been able to have, through massive struggle, they were able to form a union, their factory was being closed because orders were being pulled from it, and UW hadn't intervened. So, we got together, we used a lot of street theater and Slack. When Trevor initially contacted me to speak here, he really wanted me to kind of emphasize, the culture of organizing, the tactics, how we got it done. So yeah, we tried to have a lot of fun with it, bring some bagpipes in, and that was really our tactic. It was a lot of fun and getting some attention, right, through these things, and also, just not, you can't ignore bagpipes, right? You gotta, make some noise. And so, we confronted the administration with that, and that was one of the first times that we felt like we were really starting to get a response. The Licensing Advisory Committee had met just previous to that, and we were trying to say, look, President Emmer, you're committed to sign, to send this letter to the brands complaining, and you haven't done it. And I'm not sure, off the record, if he actually even has, but we did get him to sign the Designated Suppliers Program. And I think it's kind of telling that, it wasn't just one isolated action. We were going, 3 times a week with delegates of students delivering letters to his office, every day, right? A letter Emmer delivery again. we had a mock wedding between Emmert and the Designated Suppliers program. We had, I think, actually I have it on my PowerPoint. One of the more effective things is we had this whole campaign on campus that the theme was, we'd rather go naked than wear clothing made in sweatshops. And so, you know, we were wearing trash bags, not naked. You know, we went to President Emmert's office and said, like, look, we're going to get press on this. And ultimately, we went to Washington Weekend, which was supposed to be this whole weekend event about how great UW is and wear your purple and gold. And we're like, we don't really want to wear purple and gold if it's oppressive in the way that it's being made, right? So we had a rally, we had radical cheerleaders there, and we got a lot of press. And I think that that is ultimately what caused the UW to agree to sign on to the Designated Suppliers Program. Yes, it went through the Licensing Advisory Committee, but that was very much affected by President Emmert's recommendation to the Licensing Advisory Committee to sign on. And I think that, you know, ultimately, it's about making these issues public. It's about not allowing an area of escape for people in power. Like, I know President Emmert is very busy. He's got a lot going on, but it doesn't take half a year. It doesn't take a full year to sign on to the Designated Suppliers Program and to get some accountability for our workers. So I guess, yeah, that's it in closing. I mean, it was really key for us to get the press that we got from the PI, Real Change, King Radio, you know, a lot of different outlets, the Daily. And I personally believe that this wouldn't have happened without democratic organizing by students on the ground, by professors, by many people, even on the Licensing Advisory Committee, who are very friendly to this issue. But I think, you know, yes, it's very important for us to read our books and to be well informed on how everything happens, but ultimately, it's up to you guys. You gotta call your policymakers, you gotta hold people accountable in these systems of power. And that was really what it was about for us as students. Like, we can't go around the world and fix everything in these factories, nor should we. I think I really liked what you said, Lupe, Gamboa, about it's about the problems in your own backyard. And we here as students, right, we're looking at this global problem. We learn about, you know, problems of globalization every day in classes. But what is it in our sphere of influence as students that we can affect? And that was entirely right here on campus. So that's it, thanks.
That's going to be hard to follow.
You don't have a bagpipe?
Sorry.
Very good demonstrations have a certain. Can you sort of remember it?
With this one?
Well, similar ones.
I was that one, but yeah, I guess it's not going to work. Okay, well, sorry, there's not going to be the audio-visual. So Rachel is showing me up in a couple of ways here. But my name's Jeremy Simmer, and for 5 years I was the director of the Community Alliance for Global Justice here in Seattle. And though I wish I could say I helped get the anti-sweatshop campaign rolling here. Thank you for giving me credit, Rachel, but I had graduated by then, so.
It was formative for Slack, though, right? Yes.
You could say that.
Groundwork.
So I was the director for 5 years for the Community Alliance for Global Justice, which is a local organization working for fair trade policy. And I was asked today to address, since much of the conference, and especially this panel, is focusing on fair trade certification and on supply chain activism, I was asked to talk a bit about the other arm, or one of the other arms of the fair trade movement, which is fair trade policy, and in fighting the so-called free trade agreements. So specifically, I'm going to talk for a few minutes and give a sort of case study about a victory we had here in Washington State around CAFTA, the Central American Free Trade Agreement, which was voted on in 2005. Now, as you may know, at the federal level, it passed through Congress, but the reason why I call it a victory for the fair trade side is that in Western Washington, in sort of mid-2004, when CAFTA was becoming an issue and starting to be debated, all 6 of the Western Washington Democrats who are members of Congress said either publicly or privately that they were going to vote for CAFTA. And through a campaign that lasted, I don't know, a good year and a half or something, we eventually turned all 6